You're now listening to a Bobby Johnson beat. Hey, my main bitch and my savage man, I can get 2 for. Rather hold me up on each of pink. I need to go.
Tune in to Too Much Media.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is a creative mastery channel. We talk all things creativity, how to master yourself creatively, and what things you need to do in self-mastery in order to help push your creative pursuits along. If you're returning, thank you. I fuck with you. Please make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing, because we're trying to build a little community of creatives who like to discuss things more in depth. Currently, we're on our Sinners series where we're talking all things Sinners. So this is volume 4. In today's episode of Sinners series, I'm going to be breaking down Bo and Grace and why their names are Bo and Grace, why they were given those names, and what it means to explain the deeper meaning of the movie. Okay, so about the second time I watched the movie is when I realized why Bo and Grace are named Bo and Grace. Because at first it was stumping me. I was like, oh, okay, why are there just this one Asian couple? Because I do know that post World War II, they had the gold rush. And so a lot of Asian people Chinese people started coming to America due to that. But they started moving more west. Mississippi is in the south, so it didn't really make sense to me why the Asian people were there. They would be more headed towards the East Coast type, Midwest to Western type of area. So it didn't make sense to me why the Asian people were in there, because also this is pre World War II, but post World War I. So I was like, I don't know. I'm not really getting it, right? And I watched it the second time. So I think that the Asian people were there to kind of represent, okay, when you think about this movie, you have to break the constraints of time. You can't think of it as just now era versus later era. So it has to be breaking the constraints of time. So obviously the Asian couple is here to represent in modern day how in a lot of Black community, Asian people run shops such as the nail shops, the what's it called, beauty supply shops, and fast food such as carry out, Chinese food, so on and so forth. They run all those shops in modern day, right? So back in the day, they have them running the markets, right? But the fact that in modern day, they run all the beauty supply stuff too is what the reason why Bo is called Bo. So in Southern terms, the name Bo is quite popular. There's a lot of Bo's. You will see that spelled B-O, but then they're by the bayou and all that. So, where a lot of Creole spoken and Creole people are from, Bo is also spelled B-E-U-X, right? In another Southern term spelled. But Beau in French is beau, which would mean beauty, beautiful, which would make sense why they named the Asian man Bo. Okay? So that's why Bo's name is Bo, is to represent both now and later of what the Asian people represent in our community. What do you think about when you think about Asian people within the Black community? A part of it is how they run the nail supplies, the spas, massages, and the beauty supplies. All the beauty product type things is very Asian people centered, right? And then when you think about Grace, why is she named Grace? One thing you'll notice about Grace is she also wears a cross on her, right? Now, my theory as to why Grace is named Grace is because she's the one with Grace in the movie, and what is the last straw between the vampires getting in versus getting out, right? I think that grace represents the grace that Black people allow for other races within their community. Because obviously throughout the film, we see how they hold direct no's when it comes to white people. White people, remember when Ramek is at the door and he's like, oh, you're not going to let me in? And Smoke is like, no. And then he goes oh, wow, it's because of the skin? Wow, oh my God. And he's all offended, wow, you guys are not letting me in to the juke just because I'm white. I can't believe this. Whereas the Asian people are allowed into the juke. And I think that Grace's name is Grace to represent the grace we show for black people who aren't white. So we always are letting in other races into our community and considering them family and allowing them the grace of being a part of black situations, right? So we have Bo and we have Grace. Another reason I believe, and also another reason that also makes sense why Bo's name is Bo is because he's very handsome. They also made sure to pick an actor who was handsome to go along with his name, right? And grace also represents how when we allow grace for other communities and allow them as a part of all of our things, that is what lets in the vampires. That's why grace is the one who lets the vampires in, because we allowed grace and therefore grace was allowed on the one thing that was going to be our demise. So that's why she had to be the one to let them in, because it was the one outsider that we allowed grace to that also allowed them to get in. That's why she's wearing a cross. It's kind of because the whole movie also represents sin versus saints, like who are sinners and who are saints. It's also to say like how grace is seen as a saintly thing, as a positive thing, as a good thing to have grace, right? It's to make you re-question, is grace good? Is it good to have grace? Because I know, for example, the first time I watched Sinners, bro, when I'm telling you Grace pissed me off, I wanted her to be launched from my movie screen. I was so angry. I was like, why the fuck would you let them in? Who cares about your stupid daughter, Lisa? But it's also to say that like when you allow grace for other communities, you have to also understand that they're going to have priorities and have grace for things that you don't have grace for. So it's like things that you don't care about and that are not priorities for you, they're going to have to leave grace for other things that you wouldn't, such as her daughter being at home. And so now she's willing to let the vampires in to their establishment and kill all of them in order to save her own people. That is why, for example, right before we meet Ramek, right before he even shows up on the screen, the first time we ever see him, the last scene before that is Bo and Grace leaving for the juke and saying bye to Lisa. As they're saying bye to Lisa and Lisa is looking at them through the marketplace window and walks off, boom, Ramek lands running up to the white people's house, begging them for grace, right? He starts begging them, please, please, they killed my wife, they killed my husband. That is another sign as to foreshadow what's going to happen of Grace wanting to save Lisa being the reason why she lets Ramek in. Because in the next scene, as we see her saying bye to Lisa, is when we first meet Ramek and he's begging to the white people to let him into their house because his wife was killed and money was stolen. It's all foreshadowing. That's why the scene goes from that scene to that scene. And it's also to show of like, is grace, it's also to make the viewer question, is grace actually a positive attribute? Is it saintly to have grace? Because that's what let the sinners in, is having grace. If we see, for example, the Indians, there's no grace with the Indians. We don't see no other races as part of the Indians other than the actual Indians. And he says to them, oh, it's not what you think it is. The last thing he says to the white people before he leaves, whatever you just let into your house is not what you think it is. We pray for you. I think that's to signify, because he begged them and grace is what they gave him to let them in their house, is to say having grace is not what you think it is. Being like merciful and allowing someone in because they're begging you and saying, please, 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 something's after me, is not always what you think it is. Be careful before you allow that to be the reason that you allow someone into your home. Because if, for example, there was only black people in the juke that night, nothing might have actually happened that night. They might have actually had a peaceful night with no problems. Because think about it. What is the reason that the vampires were let in? The 2 times the vampires were allowed into the juke, because it happened twice. There was 2 times that vampires were allowed in, and both times were due to the grace of them allowing certain people into the juke that were non-black people. The first time was they allowed a white woman in because of Stack. He was in love with this white woman, and she swears that because she's white, she can conversate with the white people and find a way for them to peacefully be allowed into the juke and get their money as well. and then boom, she gets turned into a vampire, and then now they don't realize she's a vampire. She gets let into the juke. And then kills Stack because of it. Now, boom, they get her out, right? Because Smoke shoots her and gets her out of the juke. And now Stack is stuck in there, right? Stack also gets kicked out of the juke eventually. And then now everyone's outside trying to convince them to come out, including Bo, including Stack, and including Mary. And then they make the threat to Grace by the white man speaking to her in Chinese, telling her that they're going to go after Lisa. That's her breaking straw. She says she can't do it anymore. They're going to kill her daughter. And then boom, she says, come in there, motherfuckers. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-da-ta. And then they get let in again. So the 2 times that they're let in is one because of the white woman, and then boom, because of the Asian woman named Grace. To signify is when you have grace, that vampires and bloody people who are coming to kill you and eat your soul come. That's what I took it from. Of why they had the 2 Asian people, and as to why another reason that the daughter could be named Lisa is because Lisa, what does Lisa sound like? Lisa, like a lease. Like you need to have a lease to be allowed here. So it's to signify how Asian people are leasers in the black community. Like we let them have a lease, but pay on time. I might be pushing it, like I might be leaping, I might be taking some leaps and bounds right there. But I don't know. That one might, but the Bo and the Grace one, I 100% think I'm on the money. As far as Bo is because it's to represent how their market in the black community is within beauty appliances, and also because Bo is very handsome. And Grace is because we allow grace with Asian people in our community. And that might be our, what messes us up as black people is that we're always allowing grace. Those 2, I'm 100% sure I'm correct. But that Lisa one might be a bit, shake it. But I do feel like everyone's name in the movie is very signifies something, like you have to really pay attention close. So even though I might be leaping a little bit with the Lisa one, that sounds like Lisa, like if you say it with like an accent, like an Ave type accent, you also could just take it as, spiritually it fell in line as that. So you could kind of take that meaning if you want to as well and create that for yourself. Like I might have creatively, made that up myself, but it applies. So I'm actually going to give myself that one. Pat on the back to me. I'm breaking down this Sinners stuff better than anybody else could. I'm putting in my own little creative meetings. Ryan, the next time you need to write a script, call me. But yeah. All right. I'll be back with more Sinners content. So that's why some of these are going to seem a little bit short, where I'm just like doing little theories and breakdowns. But I got a lot of other little theories that I want to give to you guys. If you got to the end of this video, I fuck with you. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do all the YouTube stuff so that we can build a little community here of creative people who like to dive deep into things. All right, see you guys on the next one.